Two. Right.
See, here we go. I got the video.
There he is. Hey.
How's it going?
Thank you for being with us here in Palm Springs via this technology 3,000 miles away. We love you. You look great. You look clean shaven, healthy.
Somewhat.
We're going to open it up to our esteemed audience. I just want to ask one little thing that's interesting, because I do remember 20-odd years ago that some of the rationale or the excuses for the mass shootings were things like video games and music, as you showed. Whoops. Video games and music, etc. Influences, social influences. Now we're hearing about mental health. That's the excuse, right? We don't hear so much about music and video games anymore. Any thoughts on this change in the socio-cultural explanation of what's going on in our country, this perpetuation of these problems?
Well, I think that once I and others started putting it out there 20 years ago that they play violent video games in Japan, and any number of years they go without a single gun murder in a country of over 200 million people. So that fell by the wayside. Mental health, there's no mental health problems in Canada, I'm sure, or Germany, France, Sweden, no mental health problems in Sweden. So we, like everybody else, we're sure of mental health problems. It's a big issue, and we should take care of it. And when I run for president, one of my platform slogans is going to be mental dental, free mental health care, free dental care for all Americans. I think I can. My plan is, I think I can possibly get elected on that alone, or one charge cord that covers all devices. You don't need to keep buying a new charge cord. It covers your laptop, your tablet, your phone. You know, I have a lamp sitting over there from 1920, and it has the same two-prong plug that they used in 1920, as does every other lamp. But the economic system we have has figured out a way, I think, to make money off whatever they can, as much as they can. What is our problem today? The problem is the same. See, the problem is, yes, gun control is important, and less guns will mean less killings and less shootings. But we have 400 million guns in our homes in this country. So there's no way that even if we pass laws now, imagine trying to get everybody who has guns to give up their guns, or even just those who have an AR-15. It's going to be a rough and long road. So we have to go at this. And what I hope I made clear in the film is that what's wrong with us isn't just the number of guns. There's something wrong literally with us as Americans, because Canada has more guns than hockey sticks. There are more hunters in Canada. It's the #1 sport in Canada, hunting, than hockey. And yet, depending on what year it is, 100 murders, 200 gun murders. They're 1/10 of us, so 10% of 330 million is 33 million people. We have 50,000 plus gun deaths a year, including all kinds of things from homicide to suicide to accidents. And I think, I've tried to look at the good news of this is that we are not a nation of gun nuts. 72% of the country does not own a gun. United States of America. So people from other countries think we're all armed to the teeth. We're not. 3%, according to the Washington Post, the last study they did, 3% of the American people, or I should say it this way, of those 400 million guns, 3% own half of them. 3% of the public own half of them. So it's a few people that own a lot of guns. And that is scary. But that's scary for political reasons. That's not scary because whether you've got one gun in the house or 12 guns, if you think that that person out in the yard is a burglar and it's your 15-year-old neighbor, you don't need 12 guns to shoot him. You're going to use one gun. So I think that there's something we have to change in our character in terms of who we are, how we view violence, and I don't mean violence in the movies or media or whatever, but how we respond with our own anger and our own issues, and use the violent route to respond to things. And I think if we paid some attention to that, maybe things would be different. I don't know. But we're in a bad spot here. And it's like, I don't know if I said this, I can't remember if I said it in the film or I said it afterwards, that, the NRA has it half right when they said guns don't kill people, people kill people. Except I would change that to guns don't kill people, Americans kill people. Because no other country does this at the rate that we do it. And so, in some ways, maybe the film asks more questions than gives answers, but I don't think that's such a bad thing. In fact, I think maybe more documentaries should consider the questions and invite the audience in to help find the answers. I think that would be a very good way to spend our time and our brains.
Yeah, and don't forget the country of 5 million people, Norway. There were three deaths last year. Horrible.
Right. Right. And as I pointed out in the film, the Norwegians are not better than us. The Germans are not better than us. So they are human beings. They have the same 23 chromosomes per cell in their body. And we know from their past, the Germans, the Vikings, the British Empire, they are ruthless, murderous people in their past, in their history. If you know any Norwegians now, or young Germans, Japanese, they're the most peaceful people on earth. Amazing. In just a generation or two, put all of that behind them, put down the gun, put down the hate, decided that violence is not the method by which we resolve our issues, and look at them. This is, I don't know how old you are, Teddy, but I was born 9 years after World War II. My grandfather, my mother's father, was born 3 years after the Civil War. So when people talk about the Civil War and slavery, it was all so long ago, that's my mom's dad. Was born in that era. So, we have our own rough history of an immoral history of genocide and killing and invading countries that did not invade us and kill hundreds of thousands of Iraqis with my tax dollars and yours. So I think we have to straighten ourselves out here. And and again, I don't think the Canadians are I don't think they're better than us, but I just think that if we were more Canadian-like in terms of not just guns, in Canada to actually get a handgun, you can't get an assault weapon. You could get a hunting rifle or shotgun, but you got to go through like a 2-month check. They vet you. You can't get a handgun unless you, the police have a special department in every municipality. They go in and they They go and interview your wife, they'll interview your ex-wife, your ex-girlfriend. They want to know if you're violent. And they want to give you a gun permit if you're violent. And I often imagine that when the guy in Canada who's got, and the Canadians, they are violent people, if you've ever played hockey with them. They are violent. So don't get me wrong in any of this. But I just imagine when the guy who wants that permit, and he's got to gather all the women in his life in the living room, wife, ex-wife, girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, whatever. And they've got to all sign this document that says he's not a violent person. And they're like, we're not gonna fucking sign this. What are you talking about? And he's like, either you sign this document, or as soon as I get a gun, I'm gonna blow your brains out. Sorry, just a little post-April Fool's Day humor. And it's not that women don't kill men, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, though, that on the 11 o'clock news at night, when they say that they've arrested this woman, for shooting this guy, that the first thought that goes through your head is, whoa, what did he do? All right, but seriously, I'm just saying.
Well, no one has said it more courageously over the years. Should we open it up for a couple comments? Maybe, I don't know about what we're facing in society. Any of the filmmakers here interested in the process as well?
I like to talk about the process a lot. I like to talk about how we make our films. I think that's anybody that wants to ask those questions. We don't have to talk politics if you don't want to or whatever.
I mean, I could do it all night, and of course it's so intriguing and engaging the way you do it, but if we want to engage a couple of you can either yell it or come here. Unfortunately, we can't bring the mic because we're Bluetooth, but we've got someone here who's got sort of a farmer's hat, so I'm a little concerned if he might have a gun with him.
Sorry.
Here he comes, hold on.
Hi, Mr. Moore.
Yes.
First of all, I'm Canadian. I'm sorry, and I'm French Canadian, so the accent is weird.
I forgive you.
Okay. In retrospect, anything you regret or anything you would add on to this film?
Yes, I would. No, I don't regret anything. I've never wanted to go back, and I never have gone back and done a quote director's cut, because I don't know what that means. I've never turned in a film that I didn't have complete control over, and that I didn't feel good about what I've put together. And I've never been told by a studio or network to take something out. I've always refused to sign. There's a couple of forms. If you get like a Hollywood studio that wants to distribute your film, you have to agree to allow them to edit it so they can sell it. The two primary countries are in Saudi Arabia and China, to take out anything that would be offensive to the regimes in those countries. And I've always refused to sign it, and I always make my statement to them about how appalling it is that you would kowtow to these regimes in other countries. Actually the hardest thing that hardest time I've ever had trying to distribute something is, as those of you who are filmmakers know, no distributor will distribute you unless you prove that you have E&O insurance to protect them. So if there's something in your film and they decide to sue you, they're going to sue the theaters, they're going to sue everybody. And you have to have insurance in case you're sued. So when I made a film called Sicko, which was essentially my look at the health insurance industry in this country, I could not get any American company to insure for that film, and therefore the company that was going to distribute it told me that they weren't going to be able to distribute the film. And the same was true when I had TV Nation, The Awful Truth, when I had my TV series. No episode could go on without it being approved first by the sponsors who are going to have their ads on the show that night, and by the insurance company. The insurance company had the most power. They could pull the plug on anything I did, just like that. And finally, after months, I found this small insurance agency in Kansas City. And I told the guy my problem, and he said, well, you know, I'm a Democrat. So right away, he doesn't have to say much more because he owns an insurance company and he's a Democrat. I mean, and again, as you know, anybody who's followed my work, I'm very critical of the Democrats and all the crap they've let us into in my lifetime. But he insured it, and I had to pay a huge premium and a huge deductible. And I mean huge. I don't know. I can't actually remember the exact number right now, but I think it was between $250,000 and $500,000 premium just to have the insurance. And so, but otherwise, you know, I've completely left your question and just started going into my own head here.
Actually, these are critical points. I can tell you though, I think your payment of the insurance for the E&O for Sicko was worth it if my experience in Palm Springs, just going to a general mainstream theater, I remember going to that show and it was sold out. And I rarely like to watch films except if I've got to review them for the festival where we're going to program them a second time. I went again a few days later, again a sellout. I mean, you're not just a hero for Democrats or liberals, you're also a hero for people who want to make money in this business because that was a highly successful film. One of my favorites personally because it's another area in what I think about this wonderful country that I love that's a perverse thing. Profit over the person, the same thing with guns. It was so
Can I
important.
ask you a question as a
please.
filmmaker? Yeah, let me ask you this. So you say that like, so you were pointing out the fact of how well my films do. I'm just curious because I don't know a lot of people that say I don't want to make any money. So why is it through these now 34 years since Roger and Me, and I haven't thought this question out, but it enters my mind a lot because I thought when I made Roger and Me, I said, oh, this is going to be great. A lot of people are going to start making this kind of documentary, especially using humor and satire and being sardonic and going after naming names. And I have been really kind of surprised that very few documentaries in these 34 years have been willing to do that, to go after corporations, to go after the wealthy, to use brutal humor, really, to make the point. And I'm not. Listen, I am in the community of documentary filmmakers. I honor everybody who does this, but I just, you know, we get a lot of similar documentaries about a lot of similar things, and it's usually about history, things that have bad things that happened in the past. We made great documentaries about it. Probably my favorite documentary of all time is a film that Peter Davis made called Hearts and Minds about America's involvement in the Vietnam War. So I'm not against making a documentary on the past. I'm not against going and showing how hard it is to breathe the air in India. I'm not even against climbing a rock wall or a flat side of a mountain and making that a documentary. You know, I just wish that more would be willing to take on the problems that we have right now, name names, go after people that are probably going to sue you, have some courage, and not let fear run your decision-making process. And I'll tell you, and Jeff will verify this because every time we've started to make a documentary, I've made it very clear. Now, you know, making a movie about a General Motors thing in Flint, Michigan is not gonna, none of us are gonna make any money. Or after I was booed off the stage at the Oscars for Bowling for Columbine, a month later, I start making Fahrenheit 9/11, and everybody was like, why? You're done. You know, all the critics and the comments after the Oscars, why would he do that? Why would he give that speech? No one's gonna fund him. No one's gonna fund him. And in fact, the Australians that I had convinced to fund me, even they backed out after that speech. And we had already started making the film, and now no money, nothing. And it was like, you know, more than one family member or friend said, you know, we could make a movie about something else. Bush had a 70% approval rating, over 70% approval rating for the war, for his invasion. Why are you doing this? Well, I'm not doing it to make money. I'm doing it because we've committed a war crime as Americans. Canadians wouldn't join us in this. So and if we pay taxes, that means I'm a war criminal and you're a war criminal. Unless you refuse to pay your taxes, which I'm not gonna do. I'm gonna pay my taxes. So I will have to answer for this someday as an American. And so I had to make that film. But you know, it's I don't know. It's just the way I was raised. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. Blame it on Flint. Blame it on my mom. And today is my mom's birthday. She would be 102 today if she were alive. So I'm grateful to my parents and all of that. And I'm grateful to you Canadians who do show us the way on a number of things and don't participate with us when we're doing bad things. And those of us of the Vietnam War age are still grateful to the Canadians and to the first Trudeau who took in those who did not want to go and kill Vietnamese. And Canada did that. So I think, and now in honor of you, a Canadian, being there in Palm Springs, all of us in the theater are going to sing the Canadian national anthem. Everyone? Oh, Canada, our home and native land.
Aren't you guys impressed?
Through patriot love, in all our sons and daughters command. With glowing hearts, we see thee rise, a true north strong and free. Oh, far and wide, oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land, God or whoever, glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Drop the puck.
Drop the puck.
We only know that song because we live on the border of Michigan, so we have to listen to it all the time.
En français. Hey, I want to just tell you guys that Michael is not just this incredible filmmaker, contributor to our society and awareness. He created what I believe is easily one of the top 5 film festivals in North America, the Traverse City Film Festival. He completely transformed this town into this, you know, boutique, beautiful community, and his festival has contributed to awareness in northern Michigan and beyond. And what I would like to offer is that when you say, where are the other filmmakers doing these courageous things, there are quite a few that I've seen at your festival that did with very little or no money. And of course, we have plenty of fearless fighters here that participate at AmDocs. They may not have been as, whatever we define as successful, but there are some people out there that still have balls. So thank you very much for that. We have another question from Patrick Pierre.
Hi, Mr. Michael. Before I ask my question, shout out to the baseball cap you're wearing, 1619.
Yeah.
Love that.
Oh yeah, the fight in 1619 team.
That's woke.
That's right, you're woke. My question is, and you asked this of Moses himself, what is it that makes us, you know, this country, this murderous country? You know, 20 years later, what are your thoughts on that? What is it?
Well, the best way to answer that is to ask you what you think it is after seeing the film for the first time or the second time or whatever here. Because I don't know if just me saying it will fix it, but I have said what I've said earlier here, which I think that there is something in our American DNA that we don't want to deal with. And on some level, I don't think it's that hard to figure out. You know, how did we get rid of cigarettes in bars, in restaurants, on the airplane, and everywhere? And now, how do we go from, I don't know, 60, 70% of the country were smokers at some time in their life, and what is it now? 20, 25%? I know it's pretty low. How'd that happen? We obviously were able to adjust ourselves to something that we were literally addicted to. I don't know. I think it might be worth studying. I think that I mean, here's another piece of this too. When the most amount of people ever shot in a mass shooting at the Mandalay Hotel there in Vegas a few years ago. And it was a Sunday night. It's probably around 1 in the morning. I was watching CNN, and they broke in, you know, with their big breaking news banner. And they said that there was a gunman near the top of the hotel, literally spraying automatic weapon bullets down on the crowd. And my first thought was, how does she know it's a gunman? They hadn't caught him. Nobody'd seen him. I mean, they saw a rifle fire from the top of the building, but they didn't know if it was in a room or on the roof. But they knew it was a man. How'd they know it was a man? Why would you say that? You're a news agency. Until you verify that, why would you think? I mean, isn't it possible that a woman could be on that roof with a few machine guns, spraying bullets on a crowd of 20,000 people?
No, it's not possible.
No. I mean, the number of mass shootings by women I don't think you need more than one hand to count them, if you need the full one hand. So again, same 23 chromosomes in every cell, they're human beings, they get angry, and yet, why the lack of desire to kill and slaughter mass numbers of people? Why? I don't understand it. Well, I do understand it, but I don't understand it. But right there, if you just stop and think about it.
Hey, Michael, it's your friend from Flint. Jeff here. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hi.
Hey, it's Jeff. Can I just add one thing to, you know, I think what I hear you saying, if I was to summarize it, is we've never dealt with our shadow side of genocide, of racism, of environmental exploitation, the shadow side that still lives with, I see the videos of the homeless people in California. It's shocking. It's shocking that the richest country in the history of the world can do this to its people. It's shocking, you know, where I'm from, I can't go back. The people, you know, everybody I grew up with is gone, but yet there are people there that care so much, the teachers and the people, some of the people you interviewed. So I just think our shadow side, not only do we not own it based on the wars and the violence of this country, we continue it. And my feeling is, I summarize it by saying, we're the empire. We're today's Roman Empire, and the rot, unless we deal with it and face our past and who we are and how we benefit, all of us benefit from exploiting people, the environment, the planet. You know, the countries that you mentioned have done a better job of owning who they are, but we're still, you know, when empires collapse, part of the process is they have to increase their military and their violence to keep themselves going because they can't accept that they shouldn't be living as they have been. That's destroying the world. So I think, you know,
that we never owned our shadow side is how I would summarize what you've said very powerfully in this film and all of your work. So, and thank you for giving me a chance. Yeah, I'd never done a thing before in the film world, and we knew each other from Flint. He just said, you know, do you have a couple hours to come help with this film? And, you know, so, I mean, you take chances on some strange people, including me.
Well, thanks for saying. Did you tell the audience the story of how we were looking for Charlton Heston's home where he grew up in Michigan?
Yeah, he told us during the panel.
And Jeff was a social worker, and he's like in the middle of his day of visiting, you know, at-risk youth in their homes. And I said, man, is there any way you can kind of get scoot out of there for a few hours to help us because we're trying to find this stuff. And he not only found where Heston grew up, by the time we got up there to northern Michigan, he'd found, well, some of the people you see being interviewed in the film, the kids there who rob and sell guns, the kid who used to live in Littleton, Columbine School District. It was amazing. You would think it was just, I don't know, I don't really believe in luck, but man, Jeff has been such a powerful force through all my films since then in helping me put these together and produce them and everything. It's you know, my much gratitude, that is for sure.
Hi, Michael. This is Stephanie. I am a writer by trade, etc. And I have a narrative film in this festival, and I wanted to make a documentary. And one of the things I found while watching your film is that it had very similar narrative writer structures that I would use with writing something, but obviously you didn't go down and make it in advance. You went out and found it. So that's always something that's been a challenge to me. If I'm wanting to make a documentary film, how do I create story when in my brain I'm just well, let me just write the beats, but that doesn't really work. So what's the kind of that process of finding the story so that it still has that same pulse and tension?
That's a great question. One thing I think that I've always done, my mom, she taught me how to read when I was 4 years old, so I was reading before I went to kindergarten. And I think maybe more so than writing, becoming a great reader, and to always read books, read magazines, read essays, read Substacks, whatever. But I think it's so important for all of us to read. And if you're reading the right stuff or the good stuff, you kind of absorb how to tell a story. You can kind of figure that out. But also, a lot of people are just good storytellers. You may have some of them in your family. All immigrants brought that ability with them to this country in terms of being able to tell stories. And the first peoples here, that was their living room entertainment at night, was to tell stories. Whether the stories were parables, whether they were true, whether they were fiction, they were storytellers. And so I think, yes, I think it's really important to focus on that, on that for yourself. It's good for all of us to do that, even though, because it's one of the things that sort of delineates our species. There's not a lot of species that can tell stories. They might be telling stories to each other, but they can't tell them to us. So I think that that's a really important aspect of this. And I think that, especially in nonfiction isn't just journalism. It's not just, here's the facts, man. It is the ability, because you want to reach an audience. And to do that is your ability to tell a story. But I'm telling you, you already have that ability in you. And you just need to do it and do it and do it and do it. And the old cliche, when you do start to write, that the best writing is the rewriting. And it's your 14th draft that is the sweet spot. That's where you're I love writing so much. And you would think, you had to rewrite this 14 times. Yeah. Yeah. What a joy. What a pleasure.
Michael. My name is Erica, and I'm also a documentary filmmaker here at the festival. And
Hi, Erica. Can you speak up just a little bit?
yeah, sure. So you have many decades of experience now making films where you're really putting yourself out there, and clearly there's a lot of your heart in these films. What do you do differently from the beginning to the present as far as how do you take care of your heart in all of these matters?
Well, Jeff and I have talked about this a lot, that when we're making these films, especially these kinds of films, and the powerful film that Jeff made here in the last couple of years, we've often wondered what the pain of this, of making these films, and meeting a kid with, who's been shot at Columbine, or any of the other people we met and was suffering. And, we're very sensitive people, so we absorb that quite easily, and it becomes very hard for us. And I think every time we've started to make a new film, we really do ask ourselves, do we really want to do this to ourselves? Because, what impact is it having on our health, our mental health, our physical health? What PTSD do we suffer from having spent too many years in Littleton, Colorado? It's a really good question, and it's why I'm trying to be a little careful on how to answer, because I don't really want to encourage people to bring this kind of harm to themselves by making these kinds of films. So you do have to find a way to keep your sanity, to keep your health. If you have a good sense of humor, that's really helpful. If you can laugh at even the darkest of moments, that's really helpful. Laugh at yourself and your own foibles and misfortunes, that helps. Get a lot of sleep, as much as you can. Drink water. Go for a couple of walks every day. But we need more people doing this. And I'm inspired when I see documentary filmmakers make something that was brave to me. I need it. I don't want to feel alone. Jeff and I don't want to be 2 out of the 12 people that are making this kind of film. So, I don't know, is that helpful at all? Or?
Yeah.
No, that was very personal. We have maybe 1 or 2 more, okay, 3 more, now there's 4, now they're lining up.
Okay. No,
But we're
okay.
all friends here.
I'll get shorter answers.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Remember when you had Tony Robbins at your festival, and you asked me, what are these guys? It's 700 people in one of your theaters at 11:30 at night, and you were worried if they liked him. And I said, well, you tell me, look. So it doesn't matter about the time. And by the way, Michael's being so kind because he's 3 hours ahead, remember. So if you guys are worried about going to bed, just be cool for a few more moments. Here's Debbie.
Hi, Michael.
Trump will be fingerprinted by the time you guys get up on Tuesday.
Oh boy. Hi, Michael. I'm Debbie.
Well, aren't you, as Californians? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask.
Go.
Aren't you afraid when you wake up in the morning because the world is like 3 hours or 6 hours ahead of you? Aren't you? Don't you hate to pick up the phone to see what god-awful thing has already happened today?
Especially if you live in Alaska like me, where everything's 4 hours out there.
That's worse.
Yeah, no.
Okay, sorry.
This is Debbie. I'm a writer, so I really appreciate the 14 draft comment. I'm a strong believer in that. But first off, thank you so much for your work and your bravery and tackling an issue like Columbine and creating this film, which is still an important piece today, probably more so because of the many mass shootings we've had, which must break your heart. My daughter's basketball coach was in Las Vegas and had 3 bullets go through him, and he survived. He's still playing basketball. He was lucky, but a lot of people weren't. And what would you say to filmmakers today about where we should go with filmmaking and educating the public to make the change like we did with smoking? To reach some goals, to get rid of some of these guns and to reduce the violence. What would you say to a filmmaker? Where do you start when the country has grown so numb to these school shootings, which is, it's a travesty that we read almost once a week. We hear about these children that are being shot. So where do you start to change, to have the political action, to make a statement or a visual film that would help this matter?
Back in the 50s and 60s, Martin Luther King and his group, they were just trying to figure out how to get the attention of America. What will it take after all these lynchings, after Emmett Till, after, and there were, and things to get slightly a little bit better, but still, and King and Ralph Abernathy and the others, John Lewis, when the Selma incident happened, on the Selma Bridge, and then the people that were killed on the march to Montgomery, but the TV cameras being there, showing the police and their fire hoses, showing the police with their dogs and the billy clubs, and the brutal attacking of nonviolent people, of elderly people, of children. That did more to move the needle with white America. It's like, yes, we're basically a racist country, but even a percentage of the racist white people could not tolerate that. They took it so far. But it had already been that far. It's just that the moving image, this thing, that camera, is a powerful weapon, a weapon for good. And I think that if we weren't afraid to use our ability as filmmakers to do something that's not, quote, necessarily entertaining, but is going to hit people, like them viewing that fire hose or viewing a 9-year-old girl running naked down a road in Vietnam with the napalm burning her skin off. There were points in the Vietnam War where the American people, not all of them, but enough of them, just said, that's it. I'm against this war, it's over. And then it still took another 4 to 8 years, but still, I believe that most people, okay, maybe not most, I believe many people will respond if we were making the kinds of films we should be making, and then making sure people get to see them. Because at some point they're not going to be able to turn away. And I believe everybody, has a number. So last week there were 3 9-year-olds killed plus 3 adults at the school. I would just like to take my camera and microphone around and just ask Americans, what's your number? What's the number where you will scream enough and devote some time of every week of your life to ending this madness? Would it be how about 100 kids killed in a single day in schools across America? Would that be enough? No? 1,000? What about 100 separate school shootings in one day? Would that be enough? Because there is a number. That's the thing. There's a number where people, even people you don't like, are going to say, fuck it, that's it. We got to do something. I'm for the Second Amendment, but everybody's got to put the guns down. Everybody's got to turn the guns in. We'll figure it out later. Because I can't take 1,000 more children being killed. That's my number. I know there's a number for everybody where your body, forget about your mind, your body physically won't be able to handle the slaughter of innocent children, on some level you'll just go, okay, that's too many. 20 dead kids, 20 first graders at Sandy Hook Elementary in Newtown, Connecticut was not enough. Obama couldn't believe it. Thought 90% of the country, according to the polls, said they favored at least some new gun control laws. Couldn't get it passed. Wow, 20 dead first graders. The majority of them with their heads blown off or their face blown off. If you don't understand what the bullets from an AR-15 does. Would watching that bring back Walter Cronkite? Watching that at 6:30 at night on TV, would that do it for you? Because it's hard to unsee a first grader with their head gone. Once you see that, it's there forever. When I said the 9-year-old girl with the napalm, burning her skin off, running down the road, you knew exactly what I meant, didn't you? If you're of an age. You know, you can see the girl right now. You couldn't get it out of your head. And this country turned against the war, finally. So I think we as filmmakers obviously can play a role in this. And not just with this issue. Think of something else that is just driving you batshit crazy about what's going on in this country. And then go for it. And don't think about who's going to say no, you know, all the rejections you're going to get, the insurance companies that won't insure your film. Just friggin' do it. Just do it. You already know how to operate the camera, the sound equipment. You know how to edit. A nation turns its lonely eyes to you.
Don't forget about the economic advocacy, which you had a brilliant scene in Bowling for Columbine with Kmart, whether they did it out of the goodness of their hearts or they thought potentially when you brought the press there that maybe they've got a problem.
Bring in the making sure I brought other cameras with me, not just me.
Yeah,
yes.
that was brilliant, and that's how you can help affect change. We have another question here.
Hi, Michael. This is Chen. I guess I'm an outlier from everybody because I'm not in film industry, but I love your work, and I'm an immigrant. So seeing it is really mind-blowing for me and really understanding the reality. But just from the other side of the camera, I kind of wanted to understand, you know, some of the reality does trigger some of worries, concerns, and I kind of wanted to ask you, like, where do you want to lead your audience into, like, in terms of realization? What can we do, you know, after knowing all this from the other side?
Well, there's a whole bunch of things you can do, and I think even if you do the smallest of things, I mean, we live in a country where 40 to 50% of the people still don't vote. They can start there. A lot of people could just start there. Just promise it that you will vote. And if there's nobody on the ballot or the Democrats aren't running anybody in your area, you run. Don't wait for the Democratic Party to figure this out or save us. That's not going to happen. So you run. You think about what you could do to be involved. You know, just start talking to people about when, you know, I'd like to only talk to 16, 17-year-olds right now and see what they think about the government wanting to get rid of TikTok. You know, but I think the voting age should be lowered to 16. I think that the votes that our lawmakers vote on while you're 16 and 17 affect you by the time you turn 18. So you should have a say in that process. And plus, we all, me, the generation after me, we've raised some really smart kids. And yes, a lot of them are still, you know, but come on, let's admit it. Kids these days, they pay attention to what's going on. They, you know, if I'm speaking to a class or maybe it's just I'm at a meeting of some political local group or whatever, and if I say something like the 9-year-old girl with napalm burning her skin off, and then you look over to them and they're not looking at you because they're down on their screen, and you're like, oh, I hate this. But what they're typing in is 9-year-old Vietnamese girl with napalm skin. And they immediately, the image comes up and immediately they start reading the story. We didn't have that. They really, they want to know. They don't like being ignorant. They want to know. Not all of them, but enough of them where the energy that they have at 16 and 17 and then when they're 18 could really help us organize and do things better. But for yourself, you have to kind of answer that question, but there's so many ways to be involved. Again, just read the papers that you think are telling you the truth, so that you're up to date on what's going on. I mean, that is you're providing a great service to our democracy if you're informed. So sometimes it's not just like having to be the leader of a demonstration or this, that, or whatever, but just you know, if you live in this country, you are fortunate to be able to go for it and make noise and live your life. Geez, oh, I know that's why this is in my head today, because I listen to that thing on NPR every day about what happened this day in history. So today is the birthday of Emile Zola, and now the young people in the theater are already looking down on their screen. They're listening to me, but they're figuring out who Emile Zola is. And one of his greatest statements was, when I'm gone, I want people to remember that I lived my life out loud. Wow. Yeah, that's how we can't be sheep. We can't be quiet. There's different ways to live it out loud. Not everybody's able to do this, that, or whatever. But I don't know if I've given you enough specific ideas. I don't want to tell you what to do, but I know that you can Google it.
We have another question from one of our partner festivals, one of the top festivals in all of Europe, from Hilava, Jarmila Utotova. She has a question for you.
Thank you. Hello, Michael. Me as a North American watching this film, I was thinking the whole time, so this film was released 20 years ago, and nothing has really changed from my perspective.
Can you just speak up just a little bit?
Yes, that after 20 years of being this film released, nothing big change came up out of the situation of these guns in America. And watching the film was frustrating for me, but now listening to you, it gave me the hope. And I really appreciated what you said, that we shouldn't be sheep and that we have the hope. And I believe that we all filmmakers do the films because we want to change something. So are we naive?
Yeah, and I'm not saying don't make a film about rock climbing. I'm not. Please don't. I didn't mean to use that necessarily as an example, but you know, here, I was just looking up something here. I wanted to read to you. About I wrote this. Shit, I'm never going to find it now. I wrote up what I think would be a good amendment to the United States Constitution when it comes to guns. And I'm going to post it this week on my Substack, so you can read it there. But it's like my 3 easy ideas to at least reduce the gun violence in this country, though we'll never really get rid of it until we change ourselves. So what Jeff referred to as the darker side of the Americans.
Hi, Michael. My name's Nicholas. I'm a filmmaker, and I just wanted to share with you that when I was in the 12th grade, when I was in the 7th grade, was the first time I saw Bowling for Columbine. I was actually 2002, 2003. I grew up in rural Georgia. It was really the film that kind of inspired me. When I was 14, Fahrenheit 9/11 came out, and my mom actually took me and the family to Atlanta, Georgia, to go watch it, which is a 3-hour journey for us back one way. I just wanted to say that throughout my life, I've gone to the theater for every single one of your films except for Sicko. I was studying abroad at the time when that came out. But I'm a massive fan. I just wanted to say, as a filmmaker in this generation, you're a huge influence, and I just wanted to thank you. I've been to one Q&A, and I've never had a chance to talk, so I just wanted to...
Well, no, that means so much to me. First of all, if you were studying abroad when Sicko came out, more than likely you were in a place that if you got sick, they wouldn't take your home from you. Having said that, then you're going to tell me that you were in... Where were you?
Argentina.
Argentina, yeah.
They have universal health care.
I got sick as well.
And the other thing is your mom still with us?
Yes.
Well, would you please tell her that I love her?
Yeah, I will. Absolutely.
It's so cool. What a cool mom. At 14, she took you to this R-rated film.
Yeah.
3 hours away.
Each way, yeah.
Each way, not knowing what this R-rated film was going to show you. All the theaters across America that boycotted the ratings for that film and put signs in their theaters saying we think teenagers and tweens should watch this film, and we're not going to enforce the R rating. So thank you for those kind words. It means a lot.
Michael Moore, thank you very much for your filmmaking activism stories. I'm Bob Link from San Diego, and I work with the underserved population.
San Diego, tomorrow night, San Diego.
There you go. I work with the underserved population in San Diego, trying to figure out how we can answer some questions regarding their situations and how that can be helped. And I think one of the problems that we see is American consumerism is just run amok, and it's affecting marketing, advertising, consumer, buy more, have one more than their neighbor. And I think people are influenced by that. We've lived in many other countries during the course of my career before I retired and have not seen the likes of the consumerism that we do here. And it extends even to the fentanyl crisis, if you will, because somebody is marketing fentanyl that you need more, you need more, you need more, and it's spreading like a disease. I'd be just interested in your feedback on consumerism. Thank you.
Well, first of all, if you haven't seen Jeff's film, Planet of the Humans, this is like a main thread in his film.
Tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, it's vital.
Tomorrow afternoon, what time?
2, right, Jeff? 2:30, beg your pardon, here. So make sure you're here by 2 to get in the theater. It's one of the most important films of all time, actually.
Nobody has made this movie. This is a powerful film, and it's a brave film because it basically says that while we've all done things that we were trying to be helpful and kind to the planet, it hasn't worked. And if it hasn't worked, when are we going to do something different? And two of the threads in this film, or two of the main points he brings up, it just never gets discussed. And one is what you just said, the consumerism of capitalism. Consume, buy, and all the stuff that because what we call a comfortable life. Now, what we've learned, what we're told is a comfortable life, we don't want to give that up. And to give up any piece of it just seems, I can't do that. Well, if you can't do that, then your option is to give up the planet. And so the things that Jeff says in this film, and about population, where that was, when we were teenagers and in our 20s, that was a big thing, that we were going to explode the earth with too many people. And we don't have the resources for them, especially now that we have this new lifestyle that we all want to live. So it's an uncomfortable film on many levels. That's a sign of a great documentary. My favorite documentaries are the ones that make me uncomfortable. In fact, I know that when we're in the edit room and we're trying to finish the film, when I feel the most uncomfortable, where I go home and I say to myself, you're not really going to say that, are you? You're not really going to go there. I know then that my own fear of myself is a good thing. And I know not to pull back, to lean into it, to not be afraid, to take people where they may not want to go, but I swear to God, when you walk out of that film tomorrow at the end of the movie, And it is perhaps in the final 10 minutes, you know, they don't put this on the ads, but the last 10 minutes will crush you like nothing ever before. Because how's that sell the film? We're not trying to sell a film. We want you, and you know the great films that have crushed you, the ones that have just taken your heart right from you, that you, to this day, 10 years, 20 years later, you can't get that movie out of your head. Those are the great movies. And especially with an issue like this, where we're not even close to saving this planet, this species, the millions of other species. We're so far on the wrong rail. And poor Jeff, trying to stand in front of 1,000 locomotives and trying to turn those locomotives around to go in a different direction, seems absolutely impossible. But the impossible has happened many times already in our lifetime and before us. And imagine women who were struggling 100 years ago to get the right to vote. And the only way they could get it was they had to convince legislatures, you know, 30-some state legislatures, and the US Congress to vote for it. And there were no women in any of those legislatures. Well, there's one or two in Wyoming. There were a couple in Congress. That's it, though. They had to convince all men to let them vote. How did that happen? How did that happen? Because that's the only way it happened, with the majority of the male legislators eventually, after a 100-year fight, since Seneca Falls, 80 years, that women won. How many times were women told by their husbands who were involved in the suffrage movement, why are you wasting your time with this? This is never going to happen. Men are not going to give up the power and the control. Men believe women will vote the way their husbands vote, so why do we need to double the vote? That's the way they thought back then. And then look what happened. When Jeff and Teddy and I were younger, Mandela was never, ever going to get out of prison. Nelson Mandela, never. The Berlin Wall would never come down. A black man elected president of the United States when African Americans are 13% of our population, that is never going to happen. And those of you in my age, or maybe a little younger, you could remember all of this and people thinking, well, that's not ever going to happen. And then it does. So my sincere hope is that you as filmmakers, those of you who are writers, those of you who are, I was going to say just citizens, but you've got the most important job. If you get involved and you act and do even the smallest of things, I'm asking for this personally, by the way. I'm not asking for a friend. I'm asking personally that, you know, people like Jeff and I, others, some of you, we feel pretty alone in this world. We know, we think, well, the majority don't look at it this way. How are we ever going to fix things? So we'll be all that less lonely if just one of you in this audience tonight does something. We'll be that much less lonely tomorrow or a year from now, you know, if you do something. But start by watching Jeff's film tomorrow, Planet of the Humans. If you've got something else planned, see if you can get out of it. It's a life-changing experience. And for, you know, I mean, not many people can say I made my debut film in my 60s. So Jeff, this is his first film. It's his film. And it's like I said, it'll take your heart, lift it right out of sight of you. You can look at your heart, you can put it back in, and then you can get to work.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael. My name is Elizabeth. I live in Seattle. one thing that, and I'll say this to the audience, one thing that you can do, and I do this because it helps me deal with our country. I write hundreds of postcards to voters, and I've recently been writing hundreds of postcards to Wisconsin voters. Big election there on Tuesday. So that's something you can do because it really helps. It really helps.
Thank you for doing. Did you send some to Wisconsin for Tuesday's election?
I did. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
Yep. I do that every election. I have a stack at home and lots of stamps. And secondly, I would say my husband and I took our 4 kids to that film on the 4th of July, the Fahrenheit 9/11, because we thought it was important. But here's what I really got up here to say was you talked about feeling uncomfortable watching these films. I felt very uncomfortable watching the beginning of this film when you were out with the militia in Michigan, because 20 years ago we weren't all worrying about militias, or I wasn't anyway. And probably most of the citizens of Michigan weren't. But now with all these guns and some of the things that the Nichols brother said about, when people get fed up with the government, and, the last guy got these people all stirred up, and I am very afraid for that. Tuesday, I don't know what's going to happen. So anyway, that's a big heavy thing to lay on you at the end of the night, but I just wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those militia people, the people that we went to high school with, so I felt like I knew them fairly well. Terry Nichols, who did the Oklahoma City bombing with Timothy McVeigh, as I mentioned in the film, graduated the same year Jeff and I graduated from the high school that was just literally one district over from the high school we went to. So, but I don't know, for some reason I've never really been afraid of them. I guess I probably should be, because one of them, not that group, but a militia member from Illinois, built a fertilizer bomb to blow up my house in Michigan, and was caught only because he was cleaning his AK-47 and accidentally went off, and the neighbor heard it, called the cops, and they arrested him. And they went in, they got a search warrant, went into his apartment, and he had all this bomb-making material, all these guns and everything. And this was 3 years after Bowling for Columbine came out. And we took his diary, and then I had to meet with the cops about all this, and they said, we want you to read this page in his diary. It said, at the top it said, hit list. And my name was the very first name. Second name was Janet Reno. Remember her, the Clintons, Attorney General? Then Hillary Clinton, Rosie O'Donnell, and I was so nervous, because again, the Irish, the humor kicks in just as a defense mechanism. And I said to the cop, how did I make the lesbian list? I mean, I'm honored. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, though, this guy, and of course I'm being sarcastic because the right wingers, that's how they like to view Hillary. But I think everybody got my point. Sort of. But I just try to look for the humor in things so I don't come unglued, basically. And Girlfriends magazine, the lesbian magazine Girlfriends, they put me on the cover after that. And it's on my wall. It's like one of my greatest honors.
We love lesbians too. In fact, we had a great film called Lesbians on the Loose, if you guys didn't see it.
Wow, that's a great title.
Yeah. We want to thank Michael. He has been so gracious with his time and energy and sincerity and his commitment to helping build awareness in this world. I'm sure he's not so happy about compliments, but we're proud to have him here with us. And perhaps he knows I've been begging him for years to physically come here to do a retrospective. He's promised me that before, but we would do a retrospective and make him proud, not because he's an old man. He's not an old man. He's still vibrant, But just because we think what we did today is just a small taste of what we should do tomorrow. So thank you so very much, Michael. We're honored.
Thank you for what you do. I'm entering the 70th year in the next 3 weeks. So,
happiest of birthdays and we love Jeff. Jeff brought you to us. You brought me to Jeff because I was chasing you in Traverse City, and I met this man, and he became a dear friend. And he is, like you said, is a hero. Apropos, the film that Michael has pushed, Planet of the Humans, was slated to be our opening night film. Michael had the gonads to screen it at his festival. There were other festivals that didn't have the nuts to do it, and we said we don't care. We don't have a big corporate sponsor, so we're not worried about taking chances. We want to do what's right, and it was going to be our opening night film in 2020, and of course COVID hit and we canceled. So we're so happy that we have this opportunity, and we hope it makes an impact on you. Thank you again, Michael.
thank you, Teddy. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Sleep well, and happiest of birthdays. And thank our staff. Thank the theater staff for staying up.
Thank you. Drive safely. Watch out for the snow.
Yeah, snowbirds. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Yeah, thank you. That was great.